Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay, also known as AnimalBasedbae, and I create content around recipes and ancestral way of living. So today I am making a badass ice cream sandwich. That's right, and you are never too old to enjoy an ice cream sandwich. Now, I joke all the time too because I always say that my ice cream is healthier than your salad because it really is. It is just a complete food source with all of the ingredients that it has in it, from your raw milks to your raw creams to butter. We have eggs. This is corn and soy-free eggs, super amazing. And then for the cookie part of it, I will be creating it with some dates, butter, as well as a plantain. So this animal-based ice cream sandwich recipe will feed probably about 4 to 8 people, depending on how you make them. I had made the cookies into 4 large cookies. So you could do that, and then you can cut it up and make them shareable, or you can make the cookies smaller, yielding about 8 servings. So let's dive into what you'll need to prepare for this. You will need some measuring cups, a whisk, and also a bowl to whisk the ice cream in and combine the ingredients. You will also need a skillet for the stovetop so that we can cook our plantains. And then you will also need a food processor to blend your cookie dough mixture together. Here's what you'll need for this recipe. 2 egg yolks. Separate the yolks from the white. Woohoo! And then of course I'm gonna save the whites for later to cook in a skillet for maybe tomorrow's breakfast. But check out these yellow yolks. My goodness, beautiful. Thanks Sam from Shirttail Creek Farm. He supplies all of us in the Austin area. Sometimes shoot, see, hold on. I'll grab it. I broke the egg. That's okay, I'm not losing any of it. Boop. So you'll need 2 egg yolks, half a cup of raw milk. Of course, you can use pasteurized milk too, but raw milk is a little more nutrient dense. And then a cup and a half of raw cream. Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's right. I got 1 cup. And a half. Great, and then what I like to do is I like to whisk this together before I add the honey, because depending on the honey, sometimes it can get a little sticky. So I like to mix this in a bowl. Now, if you're like me, I get a little messy in the kitchen, so a big bowl is something that I look for, and then I transfer it into a smaller bowl. Now I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of honey. Love this local honey. You can also add maple syrup if you like too. You guys, this is so fun to make with your kids too, and I've actually had some people comment on my Instagram as well saying how delicious it is. It was a slam dunk. It was a hit in their family's home. This is just so fun. Again, not only for your kids' sake, but also for you too. It's a great treat, especially when you're feeling a little sweet tooth. All right, then we're gonna whisk the honey with the cream and the milk and the egg yolk. So look at this. You can make ice cream at home, and you don't need an ice cream maker. You just need a whisk and a bowl and maybe about 10 minutes of your time. That's it. I'm going to transfer the mixture into a glass bowl so that I can freeze it, because you'll want to obviously pop this in the freezer to freeze. And then here's the important part. You'll need to, every hour for 3 hours, just go back in and churn it and fold it. And I like to use a spatula to do that. That way it minimizes the crystallization, and so then you get a little bit more of a smooth and creamy texture that obviously resembles something that would come from an ice cream maker. Pop that lid on there and then put it in the freezer. And then set a timer for 1 hour, and then I'll come back to it and churn it. Ready for our cookie now. So while your ice cream is freezing for the next couple of hours, I find it pretty efficient to start making your cookie now. So what you'll need is really just a knife, a skillet, because we are going to cook these and brown them up a little bit just to add that extra flavor to your cookie. Also a measuring spoon to add a little bit of salt, some butter as mentioned before, and dates. So what I like to do is when I source my plantains, I try to get them actually even a little bit more browner than this, but sometimes that's not always possible because they tend to be a little bit sweeter this way. So there are two different kinds of plantains. One are known as tostones when you make them because you'll see them as completely green and really hard, but then they ripen to this, and then this is where you can make the sweet plantains. So cut off the ends here, like so. And I like to make a cut down one of the seams. That way it just makes it easier to peel off, like so. Okay. And then I just cut my plantains because I'm gonna toss them into the skillet. So maybe the thinner they are, the quicker they'll cook. Up to you, but I don't want to burn them or anything, so I tried to maybe about ½ an inch. Okay, then you take about a medium-sized skillet and you turn the heat on. The heat is on. Right. Depending on your cookware. I'd like to keep mine at medium, maybe even a little bit lower, but it depends on your cookware and how it conducts heat. Then I'm going to add maybe about a teaspoon of tallow to the skillet and let that melt. Then I'm gonna take my plantains and pop them in the skillet. While that's cooking in the skillet, I'm going to remove the pits from my dates. So you will need 5 ounces of dates here. That can be anywhere from 8 to 12 dates depending on what kind of dates you get. These are Medjool, they're organic, and they also just added a certification on there that's glyphosate residue free. Yep, I think it's by Organic Delight is the brand, so anyways, these feel super fresh for me. So you'll need 5 ounces of dates. That's anywhere from 8 to 12 dates depending on how big your dates are. So this looks good. Cooking in tallow here. I'm just gonna flip these plantains. This is perfect. Get in here. I love plantains. Little fun fact, I'm half Cuban. And once I realized that plantains were animal-based, fiesta. All right, these are about cooked. You can definitely smell when they're ready just because they smell delicious and you want to devour them. So they're definitely ready once you get that nice little brown on the outside of both sides. Then I typically just set them to the side and let them cool a little bit. It's probably best to cool in a separate plate or pan. They'll cool quicker. All right, it's been an hour, so I'm gonna pull my ice cream out of the freezer and give it a little churning. This helps minimize the crystallization, giving you a nice, smooth, creamy texture. So just hasn't really solidified that much, so it's just about doing this every hour. Then the next hour, you'll see it become a little bit harder. Okay, time to put the plantains and all the other ingredients into your food processor. Got 1 plantain, 5 ounces of dates, half a stick of butter, and then half a teaspoon of salt. Perfect. Time to blend. Here we go. We want a nice smooth consistency. That way we can kind of form our little cookie patties. Now here's what I do next is I actually use beeswax paper because I'm going to form the cookies and then put them on the beeswax paper, cover it on top as well, and then put them in the freezer. So you can use whatever you like, but I separate them so that they're not on top of each other because they'll stick to one another. I like to make mine into 4 large size cookies. Not that I'm going to consume the whole cookie sandwich, but I like to pull one out and just maybe cut in half or thirds or fours, quarters even, and share it with whomever I want to share it with. Okay, making the 4th patty, kind of like you would make a hamburger. I would patty out a hamburger. You just do it with a cookie. I also like to call burgers meat cookies too. So now you made your 4 cookies. See how big they are? So of course you can make them smaller, make smaller cookie portion sizes, but I like to do this for different purposes. It just fits in the plate and it fits in my freezer pretty easy. So make them your own. Slip a plate underneath. I place another beeswax paper on top and just fold it to protect it from any freezer burn or anything like that, but this is how I store it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plop it in the freezer next to my ice cream. All right, time to get our animal-based ice cream and cookies and put it together. Grabbing it out of the freezer. Here's our ice cream and our cookies. So, after stirring this 3 times every hour on the hour, just for 3 hours, this is what you have, your ice cream. Of course, you can leave it in a little bit longer. I tend to do this the day before, make it, and then it stays overnight. Same thing, and then the cookies are just plopped in there overnight as well too. Let's go ahead and create. These won't be rock hard, but they definitely have a nice harder consistency, so it's much easier to work with when forming your cookie sandwiches. Okay, so you take what you prepped, your animal-based cookies and your animal-based ice cream, and you smash it together. So I'm going to scoop some ice cream, get ready to plop it in these little sandwiches, like so. I like to give a generous amount. Okay, then you take your cookie topper and you place it on like so. Animal-based ice cream cookie sandwich, right here. Super good. Now that's it. That's how you make an animal-based ice cream sandwich. If you are looking for more animal-based inspiration, check out Heart and Soil's YouTube. We also have more recipes coming down the pipeline. And if you're interested for even more recipes, go ahead and hop over to my YouTube channel at AnimalBasedbae, as well as join me over on my social, AnimalBasedbae on Instagram. Thanks for watching. These are amazing. I hope you enjoy, and please come back and share with us what you think of these animal-based ice cream sandwiches. Wow. Where were these when I was a kid?